Hello. Today we are going to talk about possible ACT math test strategies. This is going to be the first of a couple different videos. The first thing I want to do is give you a brief introduction to the ACT. So we'll go over some brief generic information that you need to know so that way you'll be prepared when you go take the test. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is jump right in. You should have your handout downloaded. It should look like this at the top. I've got just a portion of it showing right here. What we're going to do is we're going to go through this. I'll just tell you basically what goes in the blanks and talk to you about the ACT math test. And you just take notes. It's pretty much that simple. So let's get started. First of all, the ACT has, it says general information number 1. General information is this. There will always be, and I think that you probably know the answer to this question, but there will always be 60 questions in 60 minutes. So we'll put 60 questions in 60 minutes in the blank. Questions on the ACT address content from pre-algebra. I'm going to simplify that a little bit. Pre-algebra through trigonometry. Alright, so you're going to have some trig questions on the test. Now don't get worried about that and freak out on me, but you are going to have a few questions. But you're going to find that most of those trig questions you did in your geometry class, so don't get too worried about the trig questions. Any of the very upper level trig questions are for kids that have taken trig or possibly calculus, and those kids may be able to answer some of those trig questions, but for the most part those are college level questions. Alright, so let's move on. The content on the math test, and this is important, the following is the breakdown of what you will find on the math test. The pre-algebra section, there are literally 14 questions approximately on pre-algebra on the ACT. This includes fractions, decimals, percents, basic junior high math. Alright, elementary algebra is going to be another 10 questions. So this is your basic freshman level Algebra 1 class. Some of you may have taken it as an 8th grader. Some of you may have taken it as a 10th grader. Doesn't matter. So you can see here that we've got 24 questions already from the on the ACT, just from freshman level math, basically. So the last part, you're going to have some intermediate algebra, which probably is going to be some of your Algebra 2 questions. There are going to be approximately 9 questions on the ACT from intermediate algebra or Algebra 2. So now what are we up to here? 10, 24, 33 questions. Half of the test right there on geometry. All right, let's move to the next slide. Now, we have D here. D, coordinate geometry, which is approximately, let's see, how many questions it was coordinate geometry? My notes say that there are 9 questions, approximately 9 questions from coordinate geometry, basically anything that deals with the coordinate plane. So we could throw some triangles on a piece of graph paper. We might put parabolas, anything that deals with a graph is your coordinate geometry. So that kind of is a mixture of algebra and geometry. So there's another 9 questions. Plane geometry is your basic 2D geometry. It's got some volume in it, so you are going to deal with some volume, surface area, possible questions, 3 dimensions. But for the most part, it's just plane geometry, which is the 2D plane geometry versus the 3D. So your plane geometry, though, you're going to have probably 14 approximately 14 questions, and this is from research. All right, we're not just making this stuff up, but research over many ACT tests have been done, and they have found that on average you're getting 14 questions on plane geometry. So that's not something that you can skip when you're doing your studying for the ACT. Now, trigonometry, this is probably something you could skip as far as studying for it, but remember, sine, cosine, and tangent, most of you covered this in your regular geometry class. So even though there are only 4 questions on trigonometry, you might know a couple of them. So I wouldn't discount this at all, but if you've taken trigonometry, then you might get those extra 1 or 2 questions on the test right that other people may not. All right, let's move on. All right, to preparing for the ACT. These 3 things are things that you're going to need to prepare for the ACT. Period. End of story. The math portion, that is. All right, first and foremost, you have got to review your math content. Period. End of story. If you don't review your math content, you might as well forget it. If you go in cold turkey and have never done anything before, haven't looked at previous math, you'll have forgotten it. All right, so if you'll review, I promise you will do better. That's what this course is designed for. We will do almost entirely, the entire course is almost reviewing math content. And so that is a big portion. Now, you're going to get science review, a lot of science review, and some hints and tips there, and just a little bit of reading and English review, but mainly we're going to review math content. All right, so learning specific strategies, which I will go through with you in this course, that apply to the math test. You're going to get strategies that apply to the ACT math test that will help you get through that test. All right, that's super important. There's some things that you can do, some test-taking techniques that will help you out and make you go a little faster. Because remember, you have 60 questions in 60 minutes. So you're seriously going to have to be pumping these questions out basically like clockwork. All right, we're going to have to get into a rhythm. All right, and the last thing we're going to do to review is we're going to practice the review and the strategies by doing ACT math formatted questions. So that is super important, and that's pretty much an overview of this course.